I've been a financial TPUSA supporter since before Charlie was gone, and I think it's time we all discuss who could take over the reins from Erika. Naturally, I'm just a guy with a microphone in an office. I've been a father, husband, and a concerned conservative man for more than a decade, and I started this channel with the express interest of promoting a future of faith, fatherhood, and freedom in America, and part of that is directing the greatest activist group on the right, which is TPUSA, and this is all just conjecture, but it's time to talk about who could take it over for Erika. And if you can support that at all, please like on the way in. I'd love to earn your subscription. The people who are running the TPUSA organization at this point just do not have the chutzpah. They don't have the moxie. They don't have their testicles out on the table like Charlie did, quite literally in so many cases. And it is time that we discuss who could take it over for Erika. And I do this in some ways out of kindness to her because I've seen the way that she's been forced to suffer just being in the spotlight and having sort of this Streisand effect, which is just continually putting her back under the public scrutiny. I think it would be great and it would be wonderful for their family if she could finally rest and actually put Charlie to rest. And so in that way, I started to think, and I did a survey on this channel about who could take over for Erika that would actually provide some amount of measured clout among the conservative movement, somebody who would have the correct vision and be able to communicate in a way and even lead an organization in a way that would promote its future success. And so while this is all still just conjecture, I want to mention a few names and see who you guys think would be a viable leader for TPUSA. These names are going to go in no particular order, but I would like to consider a few leaders in the conservative movement, and they all have flaws here, guys. But this is, again, just conjecture, so why not run the thought experiment? Let's look first at Benny Johnson.
Wants to silence your speech, and that's what's so critical about this moment, and that's, quite frankly, part of the purpose of Charlie's life. Was that Charlie proved that good faith debate is so positive for this nation. It's okay to disagree with people. 90% of the people on Charlie's TikToks were disagreeing with him, right? The girl with the septum piercing and the pink hair, right? That pees in the kitty litter box. She disagrees with Charlie, and Charlie sat there and was so kind to her. And that was part of Charlie's legacy. We're going to talk about what Charlie's legacy actually is tonight.
Benny, of course, runs his own YouTube channel, which is extremely successful. He is very sort of by-the-book Republican, rah-rah type of conservative, and he definitely has a lot of AI and thumbnail drama that he manages to utilize in his videos, but we all do it to an extent. His are just excessive. It's excessive, guys. However, I do think he's a great communicator. I think he basically has the party line, and he would have been a good representative for TPUSA. He's spoken at their events before, and I think he would have been in line with what Charlie had divined upon this organization. Next, I think it would be appropriate to bring in line Brandon Tatum.
Conservative. There's nothing wrong with putting God first in everything you do. Follow your purpose. Get your education. Build your business. Get your dream job. Get yourself to a position where you can be a quality man for somebody else. Conservative values are values that make America great. And if we continue to espouse those values, continue to believe in God, we'll continue to make this country the best that we can possibly make it.
What's going on out fast? What's going on? I want everybody to take this moment to give another round of applause to the legacy of Charlie Kirk. Give him a round of applause.
Brandon is an ex-police officer and someone who runs his own YouTube channel. He's a good communicator. He has been in line with TPUSA, events in the past. He's been a good speaker and a good representative for them, and he even faced violence at the hands of protesters at a TPUSA event, I recall, within the last year prior to Charlie's death. However, Brandon does have some flaws as well, and I do think he's not quite as wise and as good of a communicator as some of the others that might be on this list. Andrew Wilson has recently come to the defense of TPUSA, especially as he's pushed back against Candace Owens. However, while he's on this list and while he's worth consideration, I believe he was just a machine shop operator who started making YouTube videos to try to prove points to people, and he ended up, of course, being invited on the Whatever podcast and so many other ways. But I will tell you my problems with Andrew after we watch this.
TPUSA hired me to go down and train its new crop of debaters. So that's what I did. Went over to their Capitol compound in Arizona, and I started training their debaters. Now, you see, I was not very thrilled. Not very thrilled. The course trajectory of how these campus debates might go without them having the correct talking points and knowing how to do the correct debates.
Okay, here's my deal with Andrew Wilson. I really don't watch his stuff because he is so combative when he begins any debate format, and I really dislike the way that he pushes back and interrupts people. I know this might just be internet clout goblin, maybe I'm just being old and grumpy here, but I really just don't like his debate style. I think I would be remiss if I didn't mention Jack Posobiec. Now, he is one who speaks quite frequently on the TPUSA network, and he's still, deeply involved. He has his own very small show on his own network, or one of these small subgenre networks in the conservative movement. However, he has been, frequently a guest on Charlie Kirk's show. He's frequently co-hosted or hosted in lieu of Charlie after his passing, and I do think he's probably the most involved with TPUSA who's currently on the list.
Is the word no. Look at the turning point events that get bigger and bigger and larger every year. No one is above the law. Because America is not a place. America is a people. America is a country. America is a nation.
Is an opportunity for us to take a year that started off on such a high note. When I was here last year, we were on the top of the highest mountain. We'd won the election. We'd won the swing states, the popular vote. You all saw how happy Charlie was that night. I was sitting right there. Held his face in his hands, teared up a little bit. Charlie didn't like to show that kind of emotion on air. None of us do. But he was so happy because God had given our country a chance.
I do believe Jack would be a good candidate, but he is just basically a journalist, and I have no idea whether his ability to run a major organization is, fervent enough for him to really accept this position. But I have one more candidate on the list, and this would actually, to sell myself out, is going to be my election if I had my way. Last, and in this case certainly not least, I'm going to bring Nick Freitas.
Representative, this is the moment where I'm supposed to express my heartfelt condolences and then stand in solidarity with those on the other side of the aisle as we condemn political violence and stand unified as one people. But we aren't one people, are we? The truth is we haven't been for some time now, and there is really no point in pretending anymore if there ever was. We are two very different peoples. We may occupy the same piece of geography, but that is where the similarities seem to abruptly end. I convinced myself for a long time that whenever the left called me a racist, a bigot, a sexist, a fascist, a threat to democracy, for even the most innocent of disagreements, that it was simply hyperbolic rhetoric done for effect. And now the effect is a widow and 2 children without a father because the left couldn't bear the thought of a peaceful man debating them and winning. I don't think they realize yet But murdering Charlie is going to be remembered as the day where we finally woke up to what this fight is really about. It is not a civil dispute among fellow countrymen. It is a war between diametrically opposed worldviews which cannot peacefully coexist with one another. One side will win and one side will lose. Charlie tried to win that fight through argumentation, through discussion, through peaceful resolution of differences, and the other side murdered him. Not because he was extreme or inciting violence or any other hyperbolic slur they hurled at him. They murdered him because he was effective, because he was unafraid, because he inspired others and made them feel like they had a voice, that they were not alone. And he did it at the very institutions which have fomented so much hatred toward conservatives. I don't want to stand in solidarity with the other side of the aisle. I want to defeat you. I want to defeat the godless ideology that kills babies in the womb, sterilizes confused children, turns our cities into cesspools of degeneracy and lawlessness, and that murdered Charlie Kirk. I don't know exactly what will happen next. I just know it won't be the same as what has happened in the past. There will be thoughts and prayers. Charlie would have wanted prayers. Not for himself, but for those left behind and for the country that he loved. But then there will be a reckoning. My Christian faith requires me to love my enemies and pray for those who curse me. It does not require me to stand idly by in the midst of savagery and barbarism. Quite the opposite. So every time I feel tired, every time I feel discouraged or overwhelmed, I am going to watch the video of a good man being murdered in Utah. I will force myself to watch it. And then I will return to the work of destroying the evil ideology responsible for that and so much more.
I believe that Nick Freitas is potentially one of the best communicators for the conservative movement, and his, reels on Instagram and other platforms have generated tens of millions, if not billions of views, because he is similar to Charlie, able to go punch back in ways that are clever. And I know from viewing his stuff and knowing a little bit more about him, he's in line with homeschooling and all these other types of endeavors that go throughout the conservative movement and really represent the conservative movement that I believe we need to push forward. And I also know he can run his own organization, he can run his own channel, he's an extremely good communicator, and I believe he would be the best leader for TPUSA. None of this is to say that I dislike Erika or I think that TPUSA is directionally wrong-footed at this point. However, I think Andrew Colvett, Blake Neff, and Erika KIRK are just too tarnished at this point, and it may not be their fault entirely, although a lot of people have been questioning some of the moves that they've been making. I don't dislike these people, but I want them to have peace. I want to give them rest. And I think that's why the discussion at this time needs to be brought forward. Who could lead TPUSA tomorrow? If you would like to continue to try to lead the conservative movement in a better direction, in a positive direction, I would love your support in doing that. Please like, share, subscribe.